specific area, like a talent management, very specific area. So my recent experience, at least in the last few years, it looks like some of the specialists or niche players are starting to prove themselves actually to be quite convincing in a very niche area as compared to perhaps Towers Willis Watson being known as more like a generalist, in that overall HR benefit space.
That's so you're saying that there's a certainly with you there's a perception that they're more generalist than specialist, and does that which
for example, specialists can be go into even today there's a huge demand for executive development, so it becomes like a one-to-one coaching, but I don't think the kind of space we would normally think of Willis Towers Watson.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So that's like a more of a function within an organization, not an industry sector for an organization. It's just like a job role within a company rather than the industry it's in. So, and I'm saying it's different across different areas. Like retail is very different to banking, for example, or to maybe to technology sectors.
Yeah, it is very different. Yeah. So I would say they are very visible. So to answer your question, I would still think as a client, I think Willis Towers Watson is still very well known in that, in that very well established areas of HR benefits space. But HR benefits is just one area of the entire HR space nowadays, I would say.
Okay, so on the benefits side, did you deal with much on that in terms of, I guess in particular with the insurance parts of that?
For the benefit side, normally insurance will tend to benchmark, not just with the insurance company, but also with the financial services industry, the broad financial services industry. So, yeah, when it comes to the benefits side, if we do a tender, Towers Willis Watson will be one of them. But Mercer will be equally invited to participate in a tender for HR benefit advisory contract.
I see. And do Willis Towers Watson stand out in any way in that space?
I would say it's with Mercer, I would say it's quite a preference at the end of the day. I think they are both equally good. So at the end of the day, the company ending up choosing Mercer vis-a-vis Towers Watson or the other way around. It really boils down to who is the partner in charge and how do you feel that kind of personal chemistry with the person in charge of the mandate.
Okay, so that's pretty much the norm for any consulting, I think.
Exactly, because between these two firms, I would say in a lot of times that I saw when they are, because we need to normally invite 2 to 3 providers, right, to a specific project. It's quite rare to feel that one really stands out against the other. But if we do feel that way, it's normally not the firm, it's the partner that makes the difference.
I see. And just like this is a bit of a sweeping generalization, but do you find would those decisions be dependent on whether that person, the partner or whoever, is should we say a local person to the market or an expat?
Because right now in Singapore, in the regional office, I'm working in a regional office. Actually, then have a lot of I have a lot of so-called engagement side. When we try to choose a regional provider for our operation in different countries, and from my past experience in Singapore, while working in Singapore, I would say in Singapore it doesn't necessarily matter. Because Singapore is, or even Hong Kong, because Singapore and Hong Kong are very international.